Let's talk about the very first Family Guy episode, Death Has a Shadow. This episode essentially has two plots that form the main story, and one plot that makes up the subplot. I'll start with the subplot because there's not a whole lot to talk about. Essentially, the plot is Stewie trying to kill Lois after she takes away his mind control device. It's basically just an excuse for some gags in a kinda dark Looney Tunes style way. Some of the gags work, but none of them are particularly hilarious, and the jokes are kind of repetitive. However, I did like how this subplot tied into the main plot at the very end, in a way that I wasn't expecting, so I'll give the episode credit for that. Anyway, with that out of the way, let's talk about the actual plot of the episode. The first part involved Peter losing his job because he disobeyed his wife and he tries hiding that he got fired. It's just a basic generic sitcom plot. Really, nothing about it is substantive. I've seen this plot done several other times before. It was even done in The Incredibles. And then the second half of this episode focuses on Peter signing up for welfare, and because of a mistake on the part of the government, he is given $150,000 a week instead of $150. That part is actually pretty funny and works in some ways as a satire. However, we then settle down for a more generic, deadbeat family suddenly has all the money they want and wasted extravagantly plotline. As such, the main plot is really no different from any other standard sitcom, except that it's a little bit more surreal given that it's a cartoon. Now, I will say that the episode does a decent job of setting up some of the aspects that will become staples of Family Guy lore, such as the cutaway gags, the characters like Stewie, the evil genius baby, and Brian, the dog who can talk and is more down to earth than the family. Just the fact that they treat something like a talking dog as nothing to bat your eye at is actually pretty funny in its own right and works as a subdued, understated joke. The episode as a whole doesn't really make any major mistakes, but because of only a handful of moments where I laughed and its generic plots, it doesn't add up to much. I can't really call it a good episode. Therefore, I'll give this episode a 2.5 out of 4 stars. I found the episode to be amusing, but never really that funny. It doesn't really do anything wrong other than using a stock sitcom premise and not really doing anything that different with it. It does some decent setup with the characters in the show itself, even if the show becomes radically different in later seasons. It's worth watching, but you really don't need to see it more than once. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.